Greetings. I just posted a weekly garden update video. I'll link to that video here. I wanted to touch on what I'm going to touch on in this video and that video, but there just wasn't enough time, and I didn't want the video to go into two parts. But what I briefly started touching on, and I'll leave this video linked to that one so you can go back and forth vice versa, but what I was briefly touching on was the shoulder seasons. I was talking about my pumpkin from my own saved seed. It was 90 to 95 days from direct seed to harvest, which is a beautiful thing in our very short, cool climate. I mean, it's the third week in August here in Vermont, and I'm already seeing leaves starting to change on the trees, which is normal. We have really short, cool summers here, and basically we have less than a month before our expected estimated first frost date, which could be anywhere between September 17th to 27th. But after we get our first frost, it's highly unlikely that we get one back to back. Like, usually, just going based off of previous year's records, it usually takes about a few weeks to almost a month to receive our second frost. So with that being said, well, the time has kind of passed now. We have 50 days, so you can be resowing some kale, some early Jersey Wakefield cabbage, some kohlrabi, spinach, arugula, Swiss chard. These are all things that you can be sowing right now in soil blocks, or however you choose to start your seeds. And you can put those out in about 3-4 weeks under no protection, and they will go pretty long into the fall, and probably even further if you do start to use some Agribon cover frost protection. But things like mustard greens or some lettuce or arugula as well, those we can sow even later, direct sown. The younger that they are, the better chance that they're going to have at surviving. And we can direct sow those through September. I'd say all the way up until about the third week of September. Anything sown after the third week of September will not grow too much. But what we're doing is sowing it, letting it grow up as much as it can, and then we're just harvesting all at once. And then those preserved root systems will be under the Agribon cover to then re-sprout once we go above our 12 hours of daylight in the beginning of February. We go below our 12 hours above in the beginning of February, and below 12 hours of daylight in the beginning of November. And I learned all of that from Elliot Coleman's Winter Harvest book. It's of great wealth and knowledge, so I highly suggest go check that out. But basically, I'm going all over the place here, but what I wanted to touch on is that a lot of things, but since we have such a short, cool growing season, unless you have a greenhouse in the beginning of the year when the soil's not even warm, you're better off just, you can direct sow some Mizuna Asian greens, or direct sow some lettuce, direct sow some radishes in April, but it's going to take a really long time, and with all the fluctuations, you may get little to no harvest at all. Unless you're sowing under Agribon cover, but unless you have a greenhouse, it's a lot of time and energy lifting up these covers, putting these covers back down, having to weight them down with wood chips or whatever your mulch is, or sandbags or dirt. And it's just like, you might as well just wait until May. When this is speaking all from my own personal experience, you might as well just wait until May unless you have a greenhouse, because it's just, you're fighting Mother Nature too much. But on the back end, like now, when the soil is already warm, you can be sowing watermelon radishes every week from the beginning of July, like July 12th. So, and that'll give you a harvest of winter storage root crops into October, possibly even early November, if you succession it every week. I'm harvesting out of these turnips, and here's some Tokyo Market turnips, 35 days, and some watermelon radish. I just harvested a whole bunch out of here. 50 to 55 days. So all these are going to come out planted after the potatoes came out, the early season potatoes, and then there's the Moscovich tomatoes. And then when I harvest all of these in the next 2 weeks, that'll put us at about the beginning to mid-September. And I'm still going to direct sow this to another sowing of 35-day market turnips and 50 to 55-day watermelon radishes. That's outside of Agribon cover. But if you sow some, let's say, spinach or wasabina greens or claytonia, those can all go direct sown under Agribon cover in the first week of September. You'll let those grow up as much as possible until November, harvest it all, and then, like I said, they'll have those established root systems. You can put them under the Agribon cover and then maybe a small layer of reused greenhouse plastic. But if you don't have a greenhouse, your energy is much going to be better off appointed towards the back end shoulder season, getting in all of these cold hardy crops. The early Jersey Wakefield cabbage, the Brussels sprouts were planted back in May, but that just goes to show, even in May when it's just getting warm, we're already thinking about winter harvests. The broccoli, all of the kale, sorry, that's kohlrabi, but there is kale in here too. And then I'm trying to think, there's lettuces and the Swiss chard as well, arugula. Those will all do fine out of protection into October and possibly early November. There's the kale right back here. So intermixed in between all of these cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, regular tomatoes, potatoes, all of that's pumpkins, all of that's going to die back literally in a month. And then what will be left is the kohlrabis, the Brussels sprouts, which I've heard from a farmer can go into December, the cabbages, the mustard greens, the arugulas, the broccolis. So if you keep on continuously planting your garden week in and week out, just do a new succession of seeds every single week. Now this is even for the home scale gardener, not even a market gardener, because there's always gaps that need to be filled. And if you do it with thoughtful intention, you will extend your harvest deep into the fall, basically up until December, when it just gets too cold or too low of light levels for stuff to even grow anymore. I harvested lettuce into December last year, just with one Agribon layer of Agribon cover. I harvested lettuce in November, lettuce in December, turnips from under the Agribon cover in January, carrots in February, and spinach in March, just with one layer of Agribon cover. So if you do these small, if you're committed and you want to put in the time and energy and you don't have to drive 6 minutes to your garden, then by all means put all of the energy that you feel called to in coming out here in the knee-deep snow to clean off the tops of these. But even though, like, I'm on the fence about doing it again this year, but the result is that now I have these overwintered mustard greens. These mustard greens growing right here are from seed that came out of this low tunnel that overwintered, the root system overwintered in negative 40 degrees temperatures. That root system resprouted, I saved the seed off of it, and now I've put some back into the garden seed bank, and I'm teasing those apart and transplanting them out into the garden. So those negative 40 exposed mustard greens will have even a better chance at surviving through the winter in one layer of protection. So food for thought, much love, wholeness, kind of a lot there, but it needed to get out. So please let me know if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, and there's something here in the garden that you've seen now or in other videos that I haven't gone over. I'd be happy to go over anything of your interest. So one love, wholeness. Thanks for your support. We'll see you on the next one.